I think every writer worth their salt has a bit of a god complex. I mean, obviously, they write characters and worlds specifically so that they can mess with them, so that we can see how those characters would interact with each other and with their setting. Urobuchi Gen, writer of Psycho-Pass and Madoka Magica, is a perfect example of this for me. He writes his characters as very individualistic, in my opinion. They all have their own view on the world around them, and it's very interesting to see these characters interact with each other to come to their own conclusions about the world. The reason I'm talking about this is because I was recently thinking about one of my earliest blog posts, which was about the Madoka franchise. It was entitled Madoka Magica, Who's the Bad Guy or Why There Isn't. And this post got a very controversial reaction on the Madoka subreddit. Some people seem to agree with me, some people seem to take exception at the idea that I would consider Madoka or Homura or whoever to not be a hero. It got into this whole argument about whether or not Madoka was meant to be pro-utilitarian, which wasn't really meant to be my point. Although my writing at the time maybe wasn't as concise and as clear as I feel it is now, and I can feel, obviously, like I can still improve. But anyway, my recent analysis of Psycho-Pass has got me thinking about the Madoka franchise again, as I've seen how differently Urobuchi writes all of his characters, how they all have their own distinct viewpoints, like I say, but none of them are really objectively right. Psycho-Pass in particular never shows any single person's view as absolutely right. And I was thinking about how it's very similar in the Madoka franchise. Not exactly the same, but similar. And I came to the realization that I may have been slightly off base with my conclusions in my early blog post. I don't think I was necessarily wrong in saying that none of the characters accomplished much ultimately, and that there are no heroes or villains in a strict sense. But the reason I came to that conclusion, I think, may have been slightly wrong. So what is Madoka about? Previously, I thought it was about absolutely nothing. That's not quite true. It is about nihilism. The TV series, anyway. The movie, that's a different story, but that's for another day. But more specifically, it's about finding meaning in one's own life when meaning is not inherent. I think this is ingrained into the very mechanics of the wish for becoming a magical girl. The wish works because the girls are all teenagers. They have yet to find something to live for, truly. So when they find that thing, or when they think they find it, they are able to make a wish based on that decision, because in the moment you think you've found something to live for, emotions run strong. And emotions, of course, are the energy that counters entropy in this universe. I'd like to talk about how this relates to each of the individual characters, because I think it's inherent with all of them, this meaning. They all find their own different meaning, and actually you'll find that they find meaning in pairs a lot of the time, but they all do find that meaning. The first pair I'd like to talk about is Sayaka and Kyoko. So, what does Sayaka make her wish for? She makes it for the violin boy, who she feels strong enough about to make a wish, to risk her life for. She is willing to live for him. But we can see how quickly that can change when he is taken away from her by her friend. And then there's Kyoko, who originally wished to live for her father, but once her father found out the truth, he turned his back on her and killed himself and the rest of her family. So up until the point we see her in the series, she has been trying to convince herself that she needs to live selfishly, that getting close to others only hurts her. But in the end, both her and Sayaka will come to the realization that, yes, I'm happy that I gave my life for this person or these people. Kyoko gives up her life to save Sayaka as a witch, to put her out of her misery, I guess is the way to put it. She comes to terms with caring for other people. And Sayaka, in one of the final scenes of the TV series, is with Madoka watching a performance with the violin boy, and she again seems content. She's happy to have been able to see him perform one last time. They both find meaning in giving up their lives for others. And in a similar sort of fashion, Madoka and Homura. Homura is pretty obvious. She's given up her entire life just for Madoka. She doesn't want to live without her. And Madoka, her entire arc throughout the series is her finding something she's willing to give up her life for. And she finds out in the end that that's Homura and the rest of her friends. And Mami, we don't know exactly what her wish was, but we can see how elated she is when she finds out that Sayaka and Madoka want to make the wish to become magical girls. She is delighted to have friends around her. And I think this is because it's so hard to fight for an idea like Mami was, like Madoka wants to. Madoka wanted to fight to protect people, but when that means giving up your own life, it's very hard to protect the faceless masses. But when you're fighting for friends beside you, that becomes so much easier because that reward is tangible. And that's why throughout all the iterations, the magical girls are always shown to be strongest when they're together, fighting as a group. And why the witches get so strong when they're friends, in particular Madoka, who gets particularly strong when Homura continuously tries to save her. When you give yourself your own meaning in life, it hurts so much harder when that meaning is taken away. It's the same idea about religion. In religion, you can live for a god. You can live for him, or you can live with the idea that you're going to get into heaven. You don't have to find meaning yourself, and you don't have to live for yourself. But when you don't believe in a god, you have to give yourself your own meaning, even when you believe that it's all pointless in the end. That's nihilism. When you find a way to live for yourself, you might not be very happy. But when you find a way to live for others, you'll be so much more devastated when those people are gone. Madoka is about finding meaning in a pointless world, and the benefits and downfalls of finding that meaning. Thanks for watching.